Well, it really has been an absolutely outstanding World Championship. These semi-finals are unfolding to provide top-quality drama. An opportunity then to pick the brains of some of the great and the good of the press room here. We've got Hector Nuns and Shane McDermott, two fantastic writers. Hector, the drama started right at the beginning because many people, including multiple former world champions, were predicting an O'Sullivan-Selby final, and on the very first day, Joe Perry produced the upset and Mark Selby was gone.
It was a sort of seismic event in the tournament. I mean, it's hard to say it's a shock only because of how good a player Joe Perry is. But having said that, nobody was expecting it in the draw, and a lot of top players were sort of, who would look at their section, they were thinking, I might play Selby in the last 16, I might play him in the quarters, the semis. All the odds immediately from day one on all the other people in that half of the draw plummeted. Mark Allen, John Higgins, Judd Trump. So you knew something big had happened from day one. And, as we saw, he was the first of many world champions to go out in that first round. And
Shane, a lot of your work is for the Scottish papers. Maguire had Ronnie O'Sullivan by the scruff of the neck at 4-0 and I think 6-3. Ronnie got out of jail in that one, as only he can.
Yeah, Maguire missed a great chance to knock Ronnie out, and they could have both been out by day 2 on the Sunday. Ronnie got out of jail, but he couldn't quite do it against Ali Carter, as we saw.
Moving on to that huge match between Ronnie and Ali, I've certainly never seen Carter as fired up for any match as he was for that one, and I would include in that the two final appearances in 2008 and 2012. His intensity was extraordinary, wasn't it?
I'd agree with that completely, Rob. I mean, we sort of knew it might be a bit spicy because of some pre-match comments from Ali Carter that perhaps, he was claiming that behind the scenes it was the Ronnie O'Sullivan show and there were some issues over his dressing room before his first round match and such like. And you just sensed it was quite spicy. He'd obviously never beaten him at the Crucible, lost 4 times here before that clash, including, as you mentioned, the 2 big finals. So it was all set up. He was absolutely fired up for it and celebrated with aplomb afterwards, as we saw.
Well, and as far as you guys are concerned, the column inches just got bigger and better. Did we make too much of Shouldergate, or was it quite a surprising, shocking moment, bearing in mind how gentlemanly snooker is most of the time?
Well, it's something I've never actually seen before in the sport, so I don't think we overplayed it. The players tried to play it down in their press conferences, but if you look at Ronnie on Eurosport afterwards, said next time he plays Carter, he might be wearing some shoulder pads like an American footballer. So I don't think it was as played down as those two tried to make out.
Yeah, and I would just add to, I think it was a lot of fun. I think all the players, it drew in a lot of people. I mean, we were lucky enough to have Manu Tuilagi, the sort of England centre here, just yesterday, and a big unit. I think we'd all agree, and even he said he absolutely loved watching it, and he was saying, "Oh, it's brilliant. We could do some more of this in snooker." Although I wouldn't want to be the person on the end of one of his barges, I have to say.
It was pretty spicy, and it was good to have Manu here. Moving on then. After Ronnie went out, and obviously with the absence of Selby from the end of day 1 onwards, people were looking at Ding and the quality of his performance against McGill, particularly in the first session when he went 8-0 up and got a standing ovation on this side of the Crucible floor, was phenomenal. So how surprised were you that when the questions came and the pressure came from Hawkins, Ding had no answer?
I was very surprised. I thought he looked so good in his first 2 his first 2 matches. Zhao Guodong is a really good player. He blew him away, and the same for Anthony McGill, was another very good player. So I was really surprised with the way he capitulated against sort of Barry Hawkins. Again, nothing against Barry Hawkins, as we know, he's a fantastic Crucible performer, but particularly on that last morning, I know 11-5 is a very big deficit, and the game is, almost done, but you win a couple of frames, and we all seen it in snooker, the momentum can turn. And it was very interesting what Ding said to the Chinese media afterwards. A couple of them translated it for me afterwards, and he basically just said, I think I've got some flaws. I've got some flaws here, and I'm finding it really hard to conquer. And that's brutally frank self-assessment, but I hope he will do it one day, because it would be fantastic for the sport.
Quick line on Barry Hawkins. Do you think he still doesn't quite get the recognition his talent deserves? Because his Crucible record now reads, although we don't know whether he's going to make the final, 5 of the last 6 semi-finals. That's an outstanding record, and maybe people should take him seriously a bit earlier in tournaments.
I think the issue is that he hasn't actually won the title, so I think people sort of forget about his achievements at the Crucible. He's actually won more matches here in the last few years than Mark Selby, but Mark Selby's won it 3 times. That's the big difference, and I believe most people just forget what Barry's achieved here, and it's incredible because he hadn't won a match here in his first, I think, 6 seasons. Didn't win a match here, and he's turned it around incredibly. So he shouldn't be written off as he was against Sting, which, as we all saw, wasn't the fair result.
Right, so Hawkins marches through to the semi-finals, and we're really looking forward to this one. Mark Williams has turned his career around with sight right. He's won 3 big tournaments, 2 of them ranking events. He looks really good value. That's going to be a brilliant battle of the left-handers, and he thoroughly deserves his place in the semis.
Yeah, it's a really hard one to call, that one. I mean, it's been a phenomenal renaissance, as you say, for Mark Williams. He was thinking of quitting last summer. He was, desperate. Didn't think he'd ever recapture his sort of, best form or form of previous years. But he's won, 3 titles, a couple of ranking titles this season. Came in here saying, I think it's the best chance I've had to win this for about a decade. Playing some of my best stuff for years, and it's just been a really, really good to see such a sort of popular and laid-back character playing such great snooker. And I think he'd be a very popular finalist and even winner, but I would possibly make Barry Hawkins a slight favourite in that, just because of how well he's playing. But it'd be a great contest.
It would, and we've been waxing lyrical about Williams, the class of '92, and as going back to you again on the Scottish theme, Higgins yet again producing great snooker here. It was one of the brilliant quarter-final comebacks from 7-3 down against Judd Trump, and he, along with Mark, has won a couple of ranking titles this season. A massive opportunity for Higgins, who must be, even though we're only in the early stages of this semi-final, he must be marginal favourite over Kyren Wilson, if for no other reason than he's been here and done it so many times before.
Well, I think we saw this morning Kyren missed a couple of easy balls and Higgins went 3-0 up. And I think that was just because of the one-table setup. Kyren's never been here before, and obviously Higgins has been here ample times. Last year, John said he thought he could have missed out on his opportunity to win a 5th world title, which would level rival Ronnie O'Sullivan. But he's given himself another chance. He's the bookie's favourite, and probably rightly so.
Quick word from you, Hector, on Kyren. I really like Kyren's honesty. He is tremendously mature for a young guy of 26, and he's very open and said the birth of Finley, and then the baby came along afterwards. He said the birth of Finley was the making and the changing of me, because suddenly I had responsibilities, and rather than run away from those responsibilities, he's really stepped up to the plate, and it's clear that he's focusing all of his energies, other than being a father and a husband, on his snooker, and it's paying off.
He's an impressive person, Rob. He's an impressive player, and he's an impressive individual. Right from a very young age. I think his sort of father has MS, and he used to do a lot of sort of fundraising for that. He has now got a young family. As you say, when he fell off the tour, I think he realised that he couldn't no longer take snooker for granted, and he came back a completely refocused individual. He's as well as being a very impressive player who seems to be learning, developing, and getting better every year, which is so important. He's a substantial human being, and I think he's going to be around for a very long time.
Got to put you guys on the line. I'm not going to ask you who's going to win it. Who do you think, if you had an instinct, is going to come through the 2 semi-finals? It is an impossible question, but I'm just curious.
I'd say John, probably, from the first one against Kyren. I think his experience will tell if it goes towards the end. Kyren's never reached a final before, and obviously John's won 4, lost 2, so that experience will count. I think everyone would love a class of '92 final, but as Hector's rightly said, Barry's probably the favourite in that one, so I'd say Higgins versus Barry.
Yeah, I'd agree with Shane on that. I think I would fancy Higgins sort of just in that one. I think his experience might come to bear, and yeah, I would make Hawkins a very slight favourite to beat Williams. But as journalists, a class of '92 final would be easy copy for us to write. But you can't write off the hawk here at the moment, can you?
No, you certainly can't. One thing we can say with absolute certainty, we are in for 2 fantastic semi-finals. It has been a wonderful year, and it still isn't over yet.
Betfred, proud sponsor of the World Snooker Championship.